pray these things in your holy name. Amen. So the book of Hebrews, we don't know for sure the exact group of people that this book was written for, but it is the book of Hebrews, and so we can make a pretty good guess based on that it was written for an audience of Hebrew origin, and there's a fair chance that this audience were Jewish converts to Christianity, and they were struggling to persevere in their faith. And that's a lot of what Hebrews is about. We don't know exactly who wrote it, but we do know that they were urging their audience to persevere in the Christian faith. But I think as well, there is this underlying theme of community, this encouragement to press into the faith together and to build each other up, to be a community. There's talk of living in peace with one another, to love one another as brothers and sisters. And of course, there's our passage this morning from Hebrews chapter 10. So let's take a look at this a little deeper together. What does the author of Hebrews have to say about community? In verse 23, the author says, "Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful." Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And the first thing that I think the author may be saying about community here is that community breeds confidence. Okay, the church that is steeped in community breeds confidence. Now, the secret is out by now that I could play the drums. A little bit. I know we have far more gifted drummers in this church, but actually playing drums, that's how I started getting involved with worship teams. I didn't know how to play the guitar. I played piano, but I was terrified of playing it in front of people because I didn't want to make a mistake. And I could sing okay, but there was no way that people were going to know that about me. And so I learned to play the drums. I like playing the drums. I could blend into the background. If I made a mistake, they're drums, right? I just make it so it's not a mistake anymore, okay? It was perfect. And I played the drums on worship teams all through high school. I moved to Fredericton. I got involved with the church over there, and I started playing drums there. And it wasn't until I was about 19 or 20 that I picked up a guitar and I started teaching myself a few chords in my dorm room at St. Thomas. And between some friends from high school and some friends that I'd made in my new church, I had a pretty solid community of musicians around me at this time. And it was this community of musicians that pushed me to move away from the drum kit and maybe try to lead worship a little bit. And without them, I probably never would have done it. I never would have known how much I love to do it. I probably wouldn't even be here today. But I was fortunate to have a community surrounding me that gave me confidence. Community breeds confidence, and the same can be said about the church that is invested in community. The church that is invested in community is confident in the faithfulness of he who has promised to be so for his people. And why do we have confidence? Check out what Hebrews says. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess. Take note of that we language. It's important. These Jewish Christians, okay, they were faltering. They were starting to waver. Some of them were thinking, I don't know if I made the right call with all of this Jesus stuff. We don't know where their heads were at. Maybe some of them had families that had shunned them for abandoning their Jewish traditions. Maybe they were persecuted by their Jewish peers. Christianity, it's still very new. You'd face a lot of heat for being a Christian right now, and that wouldn't really change for another 200 or 300 years. I could be killed for being a Christian. I don't know what I was thinking. My own family wants nothing to do with me. These could have been some of the thoughts that were pushing these Jewish Christians to lose their confidence in God's faithfulness. But the writer of Hebrews says, you are not alone. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess. You are surrounded by a community of like-minded believers. You have a family. Maybe it's not your flesh and blood family, but you have brothers and sisters here in the family of God. And there's power in numbers. Do you know that, church? There's power in numbers. There's power in knowing that in the times that look bleak, in the times where our faith gets rocked, when the storms are coming, those waves, they're big, we can have confidence in He who has declared Himself faithful to us, because while on our own, we might not be feeling that confident, we can draw confidence from one another, from our brothers and sisters in this community, in the family of God. And we've been seeing a lot of growth here at OBC lately, and I'm not saying that numbers are everything, because they're not, but just take a look around you and see the community of support that is ready to reaffirm your confidence in our God in the times when you feel like you can't pick yourself up. Community breeds confidence. And we could try and go it alone, but sooner or later we are going to need our community here in this place. It's the way it is. It's the way it works. The apostles leaned on one another. They leaned on other disciples. Peter, he evangelized with John. Paul evangelized with Barnabas. And even when they had a disagreement, Barnabas, he went his own way. He took John Mark. Paul, he went his own way. He took Silas. And then Timothy. Not even Jesus walked alone, so that he could model this community for us. They took time for solitude. They did. I'm not saying they didn't. That's important too. But they walked in community. Because community breeds confidence in the faithfulness of God. Let's keep pushing forward with our passage. Community breeds confidence. What does the author say next? In verses 24 and 25. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And what we learn here is that community builds community. Community builds community. In 2016, there was this phenomenon that swept, it was really the entire world, but the Pokemon industry, if you're familiar, they released a game on smartphone devices called Pokemon Go. And if you didn't hear about Pokemon Go, how it works is you could walk around your neighborhood, your city, wherever, and your phone, it would act as a GPS system, and there would be these Pokemon creatures that would pop up on your phone within your real-life surroundings, and you could catch them, and you could trade and battle with other players. And I've got to tell you, during the summer of 2016, when this game was first released, absolutely everyone was playing. I had a really slow phone. I bought a new one just so I could play this game. I'd walk around the city with a friend of mine looking for Pokemon. Everywhere you went, you would encounter other people walking around doing the exact same thing. A few times, my friend and I, we drove over to the UNB in St. Thomas campus. We walked around there, and when you got to the university campus courtyard, it was absolutely packed with people playing Pokemon Go together. There was something about this game that was bringing people together in a very big way. Everyone was playing. Kids, adults, male, female, people who'd loved Pokemon for years, people who'd never thought about Pokemon ever in their life. Everyone wanted to play Pokemon Go. And you know, I don't think it caught on in the way it did because it was just such an incredible game. At its core, it was actually pretty simple. It was basic. It could be really glitchy. But I think the reason it caught on was because it created a community. And that community got excited. And they were together. And they were having a good time. And they were being present with each other, outside no less, instead of cooped up in their homes. And other people saw this. And it looked like something that they wanted to be a part of. And so they got in on it too, because community builds community. Because I got to tell you, church, if there is one thing that people are craving in this world like never before, it's community. Okay, we are living in one of the loneliest societies that this world has ever seen. We have never had the capabilities to be so connected and yet feel so alone. Loneliness is a pandemic in our world. It runs rampant, and guess what? The enemy loves that. He loves when we're alone, because it means he can get in our heads completely undisturbed. This is what he was doing to the believers in the book of Hebrews, moving in at a time when they weren't being a community. And he can shake our confidence when we don't have community. And so we need to be a church that builds community by being a community. We got to spur one another on toward love and good deeds. We've got to meet together and be together, encouraging one another, lifting each other up, because there are people out there who are searching for community. Okay, they're desperate for it. And they're coming to the church to find it. And if they see it, they'll want to be a part of it. And you know, at the beginning of the year, Pastor Perry, he put a question out to some of our folks here, asking why they chose to return to OBC each Sunday. And the overwhelming response was that OBC offered a sense of community. Do you remember that? Okay. And so what I did is I went back to some of you, and I pushed a little further on that. And I asked, why is a sense of family and community here at OBC so important to you? Why? Why is it so important to you that you have a family and a community here at OBC? And I can't share every word that everyone said, but I do have some snapshots of the answers here, and these are all going to remain anonymous as I share them, but I did ask if I could share them. So here we go, and I apologize if I get a little emotional, because what I found is that a lot of these responses, they got very raw and very real and very vulnerable. So when asked why a sense of family and community is so important at OBC, here's what some of our folks said. Being part of a family gives a place to belong, to share and receive together. We are not alone in our triumphs and tragedies. We are not alone in our daily struggles and questions. I feel loved, seen, and valued. My OBC family helps ease the sting of not living closer to my own family. I can worship without judgment. My church family reminds me that I'm loved on days when I don't love myself. We thrive, succeed, and heal together. I feel welcomed and invited. People know my name, they recognize my kids, and they serve my partner coffee. OBC has demonstrated an environment of warmth, love, and understanding. They have been there to support me in my hard times and to rejoice in the good times. This is the type of family I was looking for when searching for a church. Because of an issue in my own family, there's a void and a struggle in my heart. My church family helps to fill that void. They share their lives with me. They invite me in. For years, being posted here felt empty. OBC makes me feel connected to the community I live in. And without that, Oromocto wouldn't feel like home. Family and community at OBC makes me feel like I matter. It's a place you can be yourself and serve the Lord in our community with like-minded people. Being a military family, we don't have our families close by, and so having a family at OBC is reassuring when we need prayers or help. I was abandoned by my father. My mother wasn't really there for me. I was kicked out at 13, given over to child services. The trauma I endured as a child left me struggling to feel accepted, cared for, and loved. OBC has given me that family that I've always longed for. I'm not rejected anymore. My children are part of a great church with great leaders, and OBC has had a great impact on them. Since becoming a true Christian, I've outgrown many of my friend groups. OBC is a place where I feel most at home. For the first time in my life's journey, I'm comfortable. I feel safe. There's a community to trust. I have a true sense of belonging. I matter. I didn't really have a good family growing up. There was a lot of abuse, and it was always hard to be able to be the me God created me to be. I wasn't able to be myself without judgment or shame. At OBC, I feel accepted and loved. Without OBC, I don't think I'd have the confidence and comfort to be who I was made to be. These are real feelings. Okay, from real people sitting in these seats every week. How many of you knew that you had that sort of an impact on some of the people in this church? How many of you knew the impact that genuine, honest community had in this place? And I'm sure we could all think and say, well, yeah, I know community is important. We're a church. It's part of the package. But listen, the impact can go deeper than we may ever know. And I want us all to sit with that for a minute. Because these are just a handful of stories, right? How many others in here this morning are feeling grateful for their OBC family because sometimes they don't love who they are very much? And even when they don't, their church does. And I know this is a big one here in a military community church. How many others might be here this morning who are longing to see their families, but they can't? But man, are they ever grateful for their OBC family to support them until they can. Or how many others here spent part of their life not knowing what a family was? Feeling abandoned, feeling unloved, unaccepted. But here at OBC, they've received a family that they've always longed to have. Community impact runs deep. And isn't it good to be reminded of that here this morning? Isn't it good to be reminded that here at OBC, we are creating and encouraging a community that isn't just drawing people in, it's drawing people back. People come here and they find something that they've been looking for, and a lot of times that something is community. I would say that most of the time that something is community. And so I want to encourage you all this morning, as the author of Hebrews urged us to do, and to spur you on toward more. Keep it going. We don't always know how deep the impact of community goes, but we can know that the community that we make here can breed confidence in the lives of everyone who is a part of it. There's power in numbers. We get to lean on each other, to support one another, to draw confidence from one another in He who has declared Himself faithful to us. We get to build a community by being a community. We get to show people who are feeling lost and alone and uncertain, like they're just wanderers. We get to show them what it's like to be part of a community that will love them and will spur them on toward love and good deeds, a community that will lift them up and encourage them. People want that. They'll come back to that. He'll invite others into that. We've seen it happen. We're watching it happen. So let's keep going together. Let's be a community. Amen. Amen. Would you pray with me? Dear Lord, thank you for calling us into community. Thank you for valuing family and love and encouragement. I pray, Lord, that as we move forward together as church family, that we will just press in together, that we will emphasize the importance of community, of togetherness. We may not always know how deep the impact goes, but you're seeing it all, Lord, and you're changing hearts. You're transforming lives, and we're so grateful that we can be a part of that we get to partner with you in that. So spur us on, Lord, toward more. We love you. You're so good. Pray these things in your name. Amen.